Good morning, I'm Kenneth Moten.
And I'm Kaylee Hartung. Here are the top 5 things to know this Tuesday. Number 1, a major development in the impeachment investigation.
A national security official who still works for the White House is testifying today in the impeachment investigation. Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman was on President Trump's phone call to Ukraine.
He's expected to testify that he was so concerned about Trump pressuring Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden that he told a White House lawyer. Number 2, the fire emergency in California. More than 300 fires have erupted in a 24-hour period due to heavy winds.
Millions of residents up and down the state may be in the dark for days as the power company plans more blackouts to prevent new fires. The largest fire in the state, which is burning north of San Francisco, has now destroyed nearly 60 homes.
And the winds in Southern California are expected to pick up again tomorrow. On to number 3. A former college student has been charged with involuntary manslaughter after the suicide of her boyfriend.
Alexander Utula jumped to his death just 90 minutes before he was set to graduate from Boston College. Prosecutors say 21-year-old In-Young Yu was physically and verbally abusive and encouraged him to take his own life. They say in 2 months alone, she sent him 47,000 text messages.
Yu made demands and threats with the understanding that she had complete and total control over Mr. Urtula, both mentally and emotionally. Miss Yu was tracking Mr. Urtula's location, as she frequently did, on her phone. She went to the garage and, in fact, was present when Mr. Urtula jumped to his death.
The girlfriend is no longer in the U.S. She returned home to South Korea, but prosecutors are hopeful that she'll be extradited.
Number 4, newly released video shows an Alabama college student just before she was reported missing last week.
19-year-old Anaya Blanchard is seen on this surveillance video. Also shows her driving away in her SUV.
That vehicle has now been found with dents and scratches. Her father says she would not take off without telling anyone.
On the night she disappeared, Anaya sent a text message to her roommate saying she was out with a man. That was also the last time her debit card was used.
And finally, number 5, we begin with the hero U.S. military dog that helped to hunt down the leader of ISIS. The dog was injured, but is already back on duty.
The dog's name is not being released. President Trump declassified a picture of the dog, though. It's a Belgian Malinois, which is the same breed that took part in the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. They're a top choice for military dogs because of their keen sense of smell, speed, and intelligence.
But the dog's name will not be declassified out of concern it would give away the Delta Force unit it belongs to.
Let's get to that breaking news overnight from the impeachment investigation. The first current White House official is now set to testify on Capitol Hill.
He says he was listening to President Trump's phone call to Ukraine. Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman is poised to tell House lawmakers today that he was so concerned about pressure the president was putting on Ukraine to investigate the Bidens that he complained to a White House lawyer.
This comes as Democrats set the stage for public hearings. ABC's Elizabeth Herr has the new details. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Kaylee and Kenneth, good morning to you. That Army officer prepared an opening statement, which is 6 pages long, and in it he notes that he is not the whistleblower, but he did hear that July phone call firsthand, and he's testifying today out of a sense of duty. This morning, impeachment investigators set to hear testimony from the first current White House official, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, who serves as the National Security Council's Director of European Affairs. According to a copy of his opening remarks obtained by ABC News, Vindman says he was in the Situation Room with NSC colleagues and staff from Vice President Pence's office when he listened in on President Trump's July phone call to Ukraine. And Vindman says, quote, "I was concerned by the call. I did not think it was proper to demand that a foreign government investigate a U.S. citizen." Following that call, Vindman says he reported his concerns that the president was pressuring Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden to a superior twice. In his remarks, Vindman also explains that he is testifying today voluntarily because, quote, "I am a patriot and it is my sacred duty and honor to advance and defend our country, irrespective of party or politics."
The impeachment of your president is a scam.
President Trump, meanwhile, in Chicago Monday, blasting the impeachment probe as Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced the House will hold the first formal vote on Thursday to outline the next steps in the impeachment process, including procedures for public hearings. For weeks, Republicans have been pushing for public hearings, and the White House responded with a statement calling the impeachment proceeding conducted so far unauthorized and the closed-door depositions illegitimate. Kenneth?
All right, Elizabeth, thank you.
The major court ruling ahead of next year's election, judges in the swing state of North Carolina have ruled the state's congressional map must be redrawn before the 2020 primary elections. The ruling is viewed as a win for Democrats, who accused Republicans of illegally redrawing district lines to retain more House seats. Republicans deny it was illegal and could now appeal.
And the Trump administration has extended the temporary protection status for about 200,000 people from El Salvador.
It allows Salvadorans to stay in the U.S. and avoid deportation proceedings for at least another year. They can also get work permits. It's part of a collaboration with the Salvadoran government to address border and other security issues.
Now to the fire emergency in California. One major fire is burning in Sonoma County, threatening nearly 100,000 buildings. The other is in Los Angeles, where a swath of land stretching from a busy freeway to the Pacific Ocean has been evacuated. This morning, the relentless firefight in California.
Just in the last 24 hours, CAL FIRE's put out 330 fires in this state.
Wind fuel flames have burned some of the most expensive real estate in the country near Los Angeles. The so-called Getty fire has charred hundreds of acres, pushed by winds up to 65 miles per hour. Tens of thousands of people were forced to evacuate.
You had to be evacuated from your home last night, correct?
Yeah, but that's nothing for an action hero. Come on.
That's true.
Including celebrities like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Kristen Davis, and LeBron James, who tweeted his best wishes to the first responders. The southbound lane of one of the busiest freeways in the country, the 405, was shut down for hours from LA to the Pacific Ocean.
This is one of the most traveled areas in our area, in the country, and to see nobody on this roadway is almost a shocking sight.
The fire, given its name because it threatened the Getty Center, one of the most famous museums in the world. This morning, museum officials say the art inside is not being moved, and the building is safe, thanks to efforts by firefighters, and because the museum was built to withstand intense wildfires with a metal exterior and double walls. Farther north, the Kincaid fire has burned 75,000 acres and is threatening 90,000 buildings. Officials say power lines may have started two fires in the Bay Area, despite the widespread blackouts intended to prevent just that. And now PG&E has announced a new round of blackouts today, with 600,000 customers set to lose power in dozens of Northern California counties. The governor voicing his frustration overnight, saying a major investigation will now look into the power shutoff process.
This cannot be the new normal. We cannot absorb this year after year. We have experienced 10 of the worst fire seasons in California's history just since 2015.
In Southern California, winds are expected to ramp up again tomorrow. They could be the worst of the season so far. But despite the wildfire emergency, life goes on.
Katie and Curtis Ferlin went ahead with their wedding at a Sonoma County winery on Saturday, even as the Kincaid fire burned just a few miles away. It gave them this iconic image with the smoke, as you can see it behind them. Most of their vendors had to cancel, but not their photographer.
I was thinking of American Gothic, the 1930s painting. That was the regular normal of American life at the time, and all of a sudden, in a very strange way, this has become our new normal.
The married couple and their guests evacuated to San Francisco not long after this photo was taken.
And look at this. Our own Kana Whitworth went from covering wildfires to running from one. She grabbed her two sons and her dog and joined the thousands who have evacuated in Los Angeles. She says the sight of a tanker aircraft carrying the retardant over her house was unnerving. So we are thinking about Kana, all the people of that area, and again, first responders and firefighters who are all battling that blaze as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In Chicago, classes are once again canceled for students, but there may be some movement in the negotiations to end the teachers' strike there. The teachers union called its entire bargaining team back to the table on Monday night to review the latest offer. Meanwhile, the city has reached a tentative agreement with the union for support staff. The strike started on October 17th.
An urgent search is underway for a convicted rapist accidentally released from a prison in Georgia. Tony Macon Munez Mendez was serving a life sentence at Rogers State Prison in Reedsville. He was released Friday around noon. He was convicted of aggravated child molestation and 2 counts of rape. No word yet on what led to his accidental release. Now to a health alert and the recall of a popular anti-anxiety medication. The drug sold under the brand name Xanax and is being pulled due to possible contamination and risk of infection. Mylan Pharmaceuticals says the chances of infection are slim but cannot be ruled out. More information is available on the FDA's website.
And there is a big change for travelers going to LAX beginning early this morning.
Arriving passengers will have to go to a new designated lot to catch a cab, Uber, or Lyft. LAX officials say a new shuttle to that lot will take no longer than 15 minutes, or travelers can walk. They believe the new system will ease the traffic flow.
If they say so.
And a Tennessee man is suing the Popeyes chicken chain for not having its chicken sandwich, the popular one.
He claims Popeyes conducted false advertising, deceptive business practices, and wasted his time. He also blames Popeyes for damage to his car while he was in pursuit of that hot chicken sandwich.
The Chattanooga man is seeking $5,000 when the case goes to trial in January. But he may get a sandwich much sooner. Popeyes says it will be back on sale everywhere this Sunday.
And we believe the hype will follow.
We do. Coming up, a controversial move in Hong Kong's elections. The student protest leader banned from running from office, and how protesters are responding after this. Welcome back. We turn now to the man facing charges after his granddaughter's death on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. Police in Puerto Rico have arrested the grandfather of a 2-year-old who fell out a window.
Her family calls it a tragic accident, and they say the arrest is only pouring salt on their wounds.
This morning, a grandfather is now facing criminal charges in a cruise ship tragedy. 2-year-old Chloe Wigan fell to her death from a Royal Caribbean ship in July when it was docked in San Juan. The toddler from Indiana plummeted 11 stories from the children's area of the ship. Now, Puerto Rican authorities have arrested Chloe's grandfather, Salvatore Anello, for negligent manslaughter, saying Chloe fell when Anello raised her up to an open window.
Really, in a lot of ways, I think it's salt on the wounds of the family who are still grieving.
Chloe's parents are defending her grandfather. They say Chloe fell after Anello lifted her up so she could bang on the glass, which she often did at her brother's hockey games. The Wigans say Anello had no idea the window was open.
He was extremely hysterical. The thing that he has repeatedly told us is, I believe that there was glass. He will cry over and over.
At the time of her death, Royal Caribbean said it was helping local authorities conducting the investigation. The Wigans say the cruise line should have done more to ensure the safety of the ship's youngest passengers.
The focus of the family is there's still so many unanswered questions. The primary one being, why is it that you would leave an open window in this wall of windows in a kids area?
Chloe was the daughter of a police officer in South Bend, Indiana. This morning, the police union there calls the grandfather's arrest appalling, saying it does nothing but re-victimize a family who experienced a horrific loss.
Why are you going to charge him with a misdemeanor when you already know he's been through such a terrible trauma? Everybody on earth agrees this was an accident. Everybody knows there was no intent involved. And so it sort of begs the question, why?
Anello was held on $80,000 bond, and the cruise line released a statement calling the girl's death tragic, but said it would not comment further.
Now to Hong Kong, where one of the most prominent leaders of the protest movement has been barred by the government from running for upcoming local council elections. Let's go to across the pond now to Julia McFarland, the London Bureau, for the latest. Julia, good morning. So remind us here, who is Joshua Wong and what effect will this have on the protest movement?
Hey, so Joshua Wong, back in 2014, if you remember, the last time there was a mass protest movement in Hong Kong, it was known as the Umbrella Revolution. And like the current protests, it was led by students. At the time, Joshua Wong, he was a student. He was central in those protests. He was a heavy user of social media. He was giving a lot of talks back then, and he became very associated with that student uprising. Now, the Hong Kong authorities have barred him from standing in the upcoming local elections, which are happening next month. Now, he has hit back at the decision, saying that Beijing is manipulating the election. Now, what the authorities have been saying is that he's not eligible to run for local elections because his position on self-determination contravenes Hong Kong's sort of mini constitution, which is basic law. And that's the whole one country, two systems. And Joshua Wong, he says, no, I just want more democracy for Hong Kong.
Okay, Julia, we're going to move on over to ISIS. Now, without their leader after U.S. forces killed Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi in that raid over the weekend, their number 2 in command killed in a separate airstrike. Where does that leave the threat of ISIS as American troops are repositioned in Syria?
Exactly, Kaylee. This is really, really important because, as Ian Pannell said yesterday, you might have the head of the snake, but that does not mean the threat of ISIS is over. There are fears that the group, because it is so centered around an ideology, it's something that you can't ever truly defeat. And ISIS has been proficient in recruiting people through social media and influencing people and lone wolves to take attacks into their own hands. Now, there are still huge security threats on the ground. Al-Hol, the biggest camp host that is detaining ISIS members, families, former fighters, consists of around 80,000 people. There were women who were protesting yesterday, according to Kurdish Guard, saying if our soldiers are in prison, then we are still the caliphate. There are fears that ISIS are going to be able to still coordinate a backlash, attacks in Europe as a response to try and show some strength after the loss of Baghdadi. But his death has not been officially announced yet, although it's pretty clear that a lot of these people in these camps, they've got phones, they will know about the news. But just some good news. Have to say that you remember that dog that President Trump mentioned in his press conference in the White House over the weekend. That dog is now doing well. She was hurt in the explosion of Baghdadi's suicide vest. That dog is now back in duty. So some happy news.
Some good news there. So Julia, I know for the past few weeks, months, years, it seems, we've been talking about this Halloween deadline for Brexit. Well, guess what? That deadline is like 2 days away. So it's a scary one, we know, for all. You'll be at Halloween before we are here in the U.S. So when it comes to Brexit, don't tell me there's been another delay.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talk about Brexit a lot, and I seem to keep saying the same thing. We've gone through 3 deadlines so far. So bear with me. Let's try and do something a little different, just to lighten the mood, perhaps. We've been talking so much about Brexit and how it is so chaotic and, frankly, almost farcical in how cyclical these phases seem to be going. So let's try something else. Should we tell the story of Brexit in gifs?
I'm here for that.
Stay with me?
That's probably
gifs, however you want to pronounce it.
my best bet for trying to understand.
Okay, I've got a few which I think I can sum up the last few weeks. Okay, let's start with Brexit. It's not going very well. You could say it's a strategic hot mess. Now, the UK was supposed to leave in March 31st. Then they pushed it back to April. And now they've pushed it back to October 31st, as you say, in a few days' time. Boris Johnson, who replaced Theresa May a few months ago, he's desperately trying to make Brexit happen. But all of the legislation he's been bringing through keeps getting stuck in Parliament. Parliament keep voting against his deal. They're saying, stop trying to make Brexit happen. It's not going to happen. Yet, at least. So Boris lost a vote yesterday in bringing an election because he wants to try and get rid of the stalemate, and he wants to have more Tory MPs to try and pass some of this legislation. He lost that vote yesterday, and less than 24 hours later, he's going to bring forward that same motion again today. So he is thinking, well, maybe there's a chance that Parliament may have changed their minds in the last 24 hours. So we'll see. We'll see if Parliament will vote again, having voted against an election 3 times before. Meanwhile, the EU, of course, the other 27 member states of the EU, they've got their own preparations to make and checking up on the UK to see how it's all going, and it's not going so well.
Oh, these
and that just sums it up.
Perfection.
Well done.
And in fact, I wish I had brought my own, and it'll be the Viola Davis one of her grabbing her purse and getting up and walking out.
Yes, that is all the journalists on news, that we might have a general election just over 2 weeks away from Christmas. Not a lot of happy faces about that one.
No, not at all. All right. Brexit and gifts. You are the gift that keeps on giving, Julia, so we appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Kenneth.
All right, we'll see you later, friend. All right, let's check our notifications now, starting with a main event like no king has really had before, or maybe so, because I feel like we've seen this in The Lion King. This one right here, this little...
the line was from The Lion King.
Oh, the little cub.
But no, but the line... in the
that's what it
story was from The Lion King.
Oh, I think I've seen that movie a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, The Lion King just can't wait to be king. It's from the song. I just can't wait.
Well, when you
to
sing
be
it, I now
king.
know it. Disney is the parent company of ABC.
Thanks for that disclaimer.
Next to an in-flight meal fit for a president just before Halloween, the chefs on Air Force One prepared this jack-o'-lantern pepper.
It doesn't really
If it was a jack-o'-lantern burger, we know that the president would like that with a side of fries.
Of course. I mean, we want fries with that. We've already
I want some
agreed.
fries as well.
Nice. Hey, next up, a man in Texas who is mad about his cow, but the cow is mad at him.
Greg Olson says Belvia has attacked him several times and nearly killed him last month. She punctured his ribs and lungs and destroyed his spleen. He only survived because a neighbor came to his rescue, hitting the cow in the head. Olson says Belvia became aggressive after giving birth. He calls the cow psychotic, but plans to keep her.
Let's not throw around names. And finally, just in time for Halloween, a real spook of a show on Broadway.
We're talking about the stage production of Beetlejuice. Will Gans went behind the scenes.
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice is back from the dead in a spooktacular new musical, turning the Great White Way into the Great Fright Way.
I can bring your daddy so much pain. All you gotta do is say my name.
Alex Brightman bringing Beetlejuice to life, sort of, telling me how his Beetlejuice is different from Michael Keaton's in the 1988 movie.
Not to mention the fact that you're talking to a dead guy.
Beetlejuice is completely sympathetic from the top, so much so that you forget he's a bad guy. And I think that's the big magic trick of the show, is that you instantly fall in love with my character.
Beetlejuice.
As for Alex's incredible transformation into the ghost with the most,
how long does it take each night for you to turn into Beetlejuice?
It takes 30 minutes, I would say, from top to tail, right?
And even after 6 different shows on Broadway, this is more makeup and costuming than Alex has ever had to work with.
All we wanna do is hear that sound.
And that creepy Beetlejuice voice, Alex is able to speak and sing like that for 8 shows a week.
Tonight's our 200th show, and I've done 197 of them, plus previews. So I've done well over 200 without calling out. But that's by virtue of creating and crafting this thing that is sustainable.
Back to that macabre makeup situation. A base coat, contouring, green beard, microphone above the wig cap, a wig, more contouring, and some Beetlejuice in the form of green ooze. From there, he gets dressed until finally...
Hi, everybody. It's me, a different person. It's showtime.
Wow. It looks like a great show.
Yeah, it does.
I do want to see it. I love the movie. Little Day-O.
We need we need our music back. We need our Day-O music
Oh,
back.
yes. Day. I'll give it to you right now. See a day-o, daylight coming and I want to go home. I really want to go home.
I do too.
Hey, coming up, we'll have a look at what's coming up on this Tuesday.
Plus, a woman texts her late father's number for years. Then she gets a reply. Stick around for this one. We'll be right back. And here's what to watch out for today. President Trump will have lunch with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and meet recipients of the Presidential Award for extraordinary efforts to combat trafficking before participating in a roundtable with supporters and speaking to a joint fundraising committee reception at the D.C. Trump International Hotel.
Former President and First Lady Barack and Michelle Obama are scheduled to speak at the 3rd Annual Obama Foundation Summit in Chicago. And the CEO of Boeing will appear before a Senate committee to talk about the 737 MAX, which has been involved in 2 crashes that killed more than 300 people.
The State Department is set to hold its only public meeting on the potential environmental impact of the proposed Keystone XL pipeline. President Trump wants the project to go ahead despite court orders halting it.
And pitchers Steven Strasburg and Justin Verlander will face off as the Astros try to put away the Washington Nationals in Game 6 of the World Series at home in Houston.
Do you know which one of those guys pitches for which team?
I do. Verlander is with the Nationals, and then the other guy, Oh, dang it, I got it wrong.
Nope. Plus, don't forget to tune into the debrief for an update on all of our top stories and the briefing room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics.
So that is our question of the day, is which pitcher... No, it actually is, what do you think is going to happen with the game?
Are the Astros going to clinch the World Series tonight at home in Houston?
And why? Come with proof. Show your work. Now,
It'll be when Justin Verlander is pitching for the Nationals.
Right. When they trade him.
Not
tweet us, ABC News Live. Leave a comment in the comment section right here. Let us know. Hey, finally from us this Tuesday, a woman who lost her father sent periodic text messages to his phone number. It turns out it was not the right phone number. She was mourning the loss of a man. She was like a father figure to her who died in 2015. This Arkansas woman was sending texts to this number. Turns out, Kaylee, that the number belonged to a man who lost his daughter in a car wreck in 2014. So he was getting the inspirational text messages, all the loving, supportive messages that she thought was to the phone of the father figure. Turns out it was to him.
Just as a cathartic.
Yes, and he finally responded 4 years later to say that these messages helped me. Thank you for sending them, and I really hope those messages continue to this day.
Yeah, a really magical bond.
Yeah, very touching indeed, and I think that is a good way to end on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to have Kaylee Hartung here filling in for Janae Norman. We may not see you tomorrow. We may. Who knows? We never know.
Who knows? But it's been fun being with you.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Come back anytime.
Thanks.
All right, have a good one. We'll see you.